Happy Monday, everyone. All right, so today we're going to be looking at the Met Gala, which was last Monday. And I've never fully understood the Met. What is it? Why do we have it? What is its purpose? Does it give anyone else Hunger Games vibes? I want answers to these questions. And also, it seems as if the Met struck a different chord this year than it has in years past, which is pretty exciting for me personally, because I've never been a fan of this event. I've always found it to be very gaudy and strange. So we're going to dive into all of that. But before we do, this is a reminder that all of my socials are in the down bar down below. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is, it's down there. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. It's a huge help for me and very little effort on your part. If you are on Spotify, give my show a rating and follow me over there. I really appreciate all of it. And so with that, my name is Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's get into it. So first, we're going to do a brief history of what the Met is, where it came from, how it started, all of these good questions to kind of lay the foundation for this conversation. Now, before we get into that, I think it's important to differentiate the Met and the Met Gala, because the Met is literally just a museum. It's short for the Metropolitan Museum. So there are kind of two different locations, both located in New York. There's the Met Museum of Art, and then there is its branch, the Met Cloisters. Pretty sure I'm saying that correctly, which is a unique museum that pretty much solely focuses on art and architecture from the Middle Ages. So the Met itself has been around since the 1870s. It's just a standard museum with artifacts and exhibits, and it's very standard. It's a standard museum. It's very large and extensive, but still standard issue protocol museum. Now, one of those exhibits is the Costume Institute at the Met, which is what the Met Gala is for. The Met Gala is a fundraiser for this specific institute of the museum, which I've always found that to be interesting, because over the years, anytime I've had like a gripe about the Met or said about the gala or said anything about it, I've had people tell me that it's a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser for itself. It is a fundraiser to keep its... Be so for real. Now, the Costume Institute was originally started in the 1940s, and it was its own independent institution, its own independent museum. It was the Museum of Costume Art, and it merged with the Met in the 1950s. So all of this seems so normal and so average. I love museums, and if I were to ever be in New York, I'm sure I would love to go to the Met and look at all of the different artifacts that they have collected over the last century and a half. In fact, it's so normal, it's bordering on boring me to death. So how on earth did we go from this to present day Met Gala? How did we get here? So a couple of years after the merge of the Museum of Costume Art into the Met Gala, which is now again the Costume Institute, Eleanor Lambert, a fashion icon who also launched the first ever New York Fashion Week, put together a gala to fundraise for this new institute that is part of the Met in 1948. It was intended to be just a delightful little midnight dinner. Tickets were $50 a piece, which adjusted for inflation is around $650 today, I believe. But it was just not a big deal. It was just a bunch of Manhattan socialites doing what socialites do. Now, eventually, another fashion icon, Diana Vreeland, took over as chair of the Institute, and it's under her wing that we start seeing some of the changes that we would recognize as the Met Gala today. Excuse them. So Diana Vreeland, she officially moved the Met Gala to the museum itself, because before this, under Lambert, it had been hosted at various hotels or restaurants, I imagine, and so she officially moved it to the location in which it is held today. She is the person who started introducing theme nights, which is the way that the Met Gala is had today. And she also expanded the guest list from Manhattan socialites, the type of people that you would want if you were having a fundraiser, to Hollywood A-list celebrities, the type of people that you would want if you were having a party. So already we see the monster forming. And since 1995, it's been Anna Wintour herself at the helm of the beast, perfecting and controlling every aspect of the gala. And for those of you who don't know, The Devil Wears Prada is loosely, allegedly. I don't know how confirmed this is. I believe it's confirmed. But for just in cases, we're going to say allegedly is based on Anna Wintour. So we could honestly spend all day in the trenches of the rich history of this institution. But what I really want to focus on is the spectacle of it all. I want to look at the pricing, the costumes, and the obsession. So as we already discussed, the first ever gala in 1948 ran $50 a ticket, which is roughly equivalent to $650 today. By the late 90s, early 2000s, it was estimated to be around $3,500 for a ticket. And by 2016, it was $25,000 for a ticket, or you could buy a table for $250,000, which seats 10 people. And from what I've gathered, it's not uncommon for a designer to buy a table and invite celebrities and dress them in their designs. And they're like dolls. They're like dolls out there just like prancing around in these ridiculous outfits. So then that brings us to today, where a single ticket is reported to be $30,000. And so it stands to reason that a table today would be $300,000. That's a house. That you could buy a house for $300,000. In fact, here is a house for less than $300,000 in Houston. So I don't know, take your pick. House, table at a party. These are equivalent things. And by the way, even if a designer does purchase a table, they don't just get to bring whoever they want. Anyone that they want to bring has to be approved by Anna. And it is reported that if she does not approve somebody on the designer's guest list, that she will replace that person with somebody that she wants there. So even though the designer bought the table and wants specific people there, if Anna doesn't want that person there, she gets to put whoever she wants there. So normal things. Now, it's not uncommon for me to discuss elitism on this channel. And this is what I mean. When I say elitism, this is largely what I am talking about. These people have not even the slightest idea what it's like to be just a normal person. And while the price tag is a large part of the problem, I think the underlying problem, and I think what's bothering a lot of people today, is how out of touch they are. They are so out of touch that $300,000 for a table at an event is like an acceptable, normal, reasonable thing to buy. And honestly, the problem goes beyond the celebrity class. One example that I want to look at today is our beloved Congresswoman from New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and her attendance to the 2021 Met Gala and her attire. In case you weren't on the internet in 2021 and you missed it, AOC attended the Met in 2021, and she wore a white dress, which along the back in red lettering said "Tax the Rich." She wore a dress that said "Tax the Rich" to the richest, most elite event of the year. Now, some saw this as daring and brave, and others who aren't retarded saw it as tone deaf, because it's insane to attend an event that costs that much, wearing a dress that costs that much, while also saying "tax the rich." I hate to break it to you if you're a fan, AOC is the rich. Members of Congress make over $170,000 a year. Tax the rich is just another meaningless dog whistle that her and her colleagues in Congress on both sides of the aisle and celebrities alike use to keep the little guys tuned in. Make us feel like we're really doing something. You know, it's not patronizing at all. And this is the deeper way in which the comparisons to the Hunger Games are so accurate. The only difference is they don't send us to a physical arena, they send us to an online one. So there's always been a level of pushing the limit at the Met. I mean, these are the highest of the highest names in fashion, showing off their newest and latest designs. But dare I say, little old me, over the last decade or so, especially in more recent years, I've been seeing this trend. And the only thing I can think to compare it to is if you've seen online college students in New York who are going to fashion school and are trying to be different and edgy and are just throwing every piece of clothing that they have on and calling it fashion, but really they just look homeless. The Met Gala designs give me the same vibe. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say homeless all the time, But it's just, is this really fashion? If this is fashion, I don't want it. And you know what? I'm willing to say that maybe I just don't get it. Maybe this does look good, and maybe I just don't get it. But you can't convince me that it does. You can't convince me that it looks good, because it looks bad. And just a few that come to mind immediately would be Lizzo's look for this year. It's been deemed the vase dress, and it looks like a coffee filter. She looks bad. It's ugly. End of story. Not debating it. Final verdict. I wish I had a gavel. And if we really want to highlight the Hunger Games comparison, let's look at Doja Cat's look from last year, because are you going to look at this and tell me that this doesn't look like Tigress? Pretty sure that's that character's name. It could not be. I'm not a huge Hunger Games person, but you're going to tell me that these two people are not the same. Or we could look at Tyla from this year. Now, I'm not going to say that she doesn't look good. I think that she looks good, but she's also cemented into her dress and is being physically lifted and carried up the stairs and placed on individual steps to be taken pictures of, because she can't move. I literally don't even know what to say. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. That's insane. That's silly. And we're going to come back to Doja Cat, because this year she decided to just wear a white, wet t-shirt. But she's at the Met, so it's art. That's how that works, right? You step through those doors and you could be wearing a garbage bag, and it's art. Do we remember, I don't know if it was ever confirmed to be Kim Kardashian. I'm pretty sure it was. Just wore like a, what are those? The green guy suit, but black. Art. It's all art. We could also look at Little Nas X. Now, most things he does make me go, what? But his 2023 Met Gala look certainly made me feel some things. And just to top it off, just in case you thought that the Met Gala was a serious institution, let's not forget that Jared Leto wore this last year. And in case you're listening on Spotify, he's in a cat suit. Like a furry, not unhinged at all. And to wrap up the costumes, I just want to show some runner-ups who it just gives Hunger Games. Roll the clip. So hopefully I'm starting to paint this picture for you in a way that you understand what I'm trying to communicate. This is not normal. It is dystopian. But let's just say we already knew that. What's the point? The point is that the Met is a spectacle for the stars. And I feel the same way about award shows in general, or even the State of the Union, for example. They all just give me this feeling inside. But the Met does truly stand alone in its level of gaudy and outlandishness. It's an evening filled with nothing but self-overindulgence and hedonism. All the while, the average American is budgeting to afford groceries. And yet, they are still gawking and fawning over who was in attendance and what did they wear. But thankfully, this is the first year that I'm not alone in feeling this way on a large scale. I'm going to show you a video that I saw on TikTok. I think this girl really captures the essence of what I'm trying to say, but also the overall vibe of the internet right now and how people are feeling about the Met.
Let them eat cake.
As a woman who loves fashion and is usually very interested in what everybody's wearing at the Met Gala and usually waits all spring to watch the Met Gala, this year was the weirdest dystopian hellscape of a performance I have ever seen in my life. I didn't even watch the red carpet of the Met Gala, and that's usually something I find much more interesting than the Grammys or the Oscars, etc. And I couldn't watch it because it's obscene. And it was probably always obscene, but there is something very Hunger Games-esque, and I know everybody's been making that comparison, but it is so Hunger Games adjacent. It's probably always been this obscene, but the juxtaposition of what's going on in the actual world right now with the Met Gala, it is just so stark because of what's going on. There is an income inequality. There is a wealth gap that is bigger than it was in the French Revolution. So the tone deafness to post something like this is beyond. And I'm not saying that everything has to be about everything else. I appreciate art. I love fashion. I think you can have an appreciation of beauty in a sense that like art is important even in the darkest of times. However, this is not art for art's sake necessarily. This is an elaborate show of wealth. Felt gross this year.
Okay, so the part where she says it's probably always been obscene, but with the juxtaposition of everything that's going on in the world, it just makes it so stark. Yeah, but also the part where she says it's not art for art's sake, it's an elaborate show of wealth. Honestly, that's the end of the show. We're wrapping it up. That encapsulates it perfectly. But first of all, yes, it has always been obscene, at least over the last couple of decades, I would say. But people are only just now noticing it because they've been confronted with real life and war, which does beg the question, how come the last couple Met Galas haven't been having similar reactions with everything that's been going on in Ukraine? But we're not going to get that deep right now. But I have been seeing several other people making similar points to this. Now, as I hinted at earlier, it is more because of everything that's been going on in Israel and Palestine and the stark contrast of the Met and that. Now, I personally believe that the Met Gala points to a much older and much deeper issue, but frankly, whatever gets the conversation going makes me happy, because I have been yapping about this for years now, and to have other people finally see it is so satisfying. Like on a large scale, it is so satisfying. Now, another thing that I've been seeing online is the block out trend, which is essentially a movement to block celebrities off of your social medias, because without people like us watching and consuming their content, they have nothing, which is 100% true, which is why it's actually so laughable how obsessed the West is with celebrity culture and with things such as the Met, because without average people watching it, the Met wouldn't exist. I mean, it might exist in its original form, which was a fundraiser with socialites, but it would not be what it is today. It is what it is today because people gawked, because people were like, ooh, pretty. And actually, what I've been seeing goes much further than the Met. I think that the Met was just the straw that broke the camel's back. People generally are turning on celebrity culture in general, which is demonstrated by the blockout trend that we're seeing. People are finally talking about how plainly dystopian this is. So one person in particular who's catching a lot of flack right now is a TikToker by the name of Haley Bailey. And she is, I'm going to play you a clip of her little apology TikTok, and how that goes. But people are mainly upset with her because she's pleading ignorance about Israel and Palestine. I don't care about that. What I want to focus on is the way that she talks about the Met. So roll the clip.
Hey guys, I know what a lot of you guys want from me right now is answers, and I want nothing more than to give them to you. So hopefully I can answer every question that you have about what happened on Monday night. About a week and a half before the Met Gala, I was contacted by E! To see if I had any interest in being a pre-Met Gala host. There are usually 3 hotels that celebrities leave from to go to the Met Gala. I was stationed at what's called the Mark. I was supposed to do content with celebrities and on air about their departures to the Met. The Met is one of the most exclusive events in all of fashion. You have to be handpicked by Anna Wintour herself to go. That's the only way that you get there. I was not invited by Anna Wintour. I did not hold an actual invitation to the Met Gala. I was involved only as a host, meaning that the moment that the last attendee left the hotel, I went home and I watched the Met Gala coverage from my couch with my friends. Since I was little, I have idolized the Met. I love the costumes and the design, and it has always been one of my biggest dreams to be invited to attend. After entering content creation, I was told that those dreams are nearly impossible if you are not in one of the inner circles of fashion. So when E! reached out to me with interest in being a pre-Met Gala host, I immediately said yes, because I just wanted to get even remotely close to it, just to see the thing I had idolized for so long. I was at the Mark, which is on 77th Street, and the Metropolitan Museum is on 82nd Street. So that's about as close as I was allowed to get to the Met Gala.
Did you catch what I caught? She literally says that she idolized the Met. Why? It's an evening filled with hedonism that serves no one. It helps no one. It does nothing except serve your self-indulgence. And she idolizes it. Now, I also found it really creepy the way that she spoke about how she's like, this is the closest that I'll ever be to the Met. Maybe that's for a good thing. I think that's probably for the best, too. I'm just going to be honest. Probably for the best. The bottom line is that America and the West more broadly have such a weird, twisted perception of celebrity. We idolize these people that we don't know. And when they spend more money on one night than some of us will make in an entire year, our response is to repost their pic saying, yes, queen, slay. It's kind of sickening if you think about it. What is also sickening is how cute she can look. She's a menace. But dare I say that your queen does not give a shit about you. As a society, we waste so much time on these people when we could be working on ourselves, building something for our families, for our communities, doing something worthwhile. And I think the first step in accomplishing that is to remove the distraction of celebrity and to recenter on things that actually matter. So over my last several episodes, I have been pretty intentional about tying the stories that I'm covering in with God and Christianity, because that is something real and something that is important to me. And that transition has happened very organically. And I kind of want to share a bit of the backstory to that because I feel like it ties into this story so well. So just bear with me for a couple minutes. I promise this will come full circle. Now, if you're new here, hi, hey, I have been doing political, societal commentary for the last 3 years, and I've gone through many phases while doing it. I have built up and lost many accounts. Thank you, TikTok. And I have been very on and off with my consistency in regards to posting. Because the fact is it is very mentally exhausting to work in social media in general. But in my humble opinion, it is worse in the realm of politique. But over these last 3 years, every time I started feeling burnt and drained, I realized finally that it was because I was putting my faith and my hopes into the wrong things. I was putting it into people and I was putting it into the world at large, and I was consistently let down, and that will drain you. About a month or so ago, I started getting this very draining feeling again, so I took a couple of weeks off, and I knew in my heart that the problem was that I wasn't focused and centered on Jesus. But the world is alluring and captivating, and so it's easier said than done to just recenter. And so I prayed on it. And over the last couple of months, every story that I have covered and viewed with a heart of Christ, and it has brought me so much peace. These stories that I cover or that we read online can be so stressful and so anxiety provoking because we have no control over them. But once I started recentering myself through God, which I can control, I was able to have peace in the chaos. But to get that peace, I had to recenter away from the things that were giving me anxiety. And this is where it ties into our story today, because the West at large is centered on the wrong thing. Every year when the Met Gala rolls around, I see people posting and reposting what Kendall Jenner was wearing. Why? For what? I mean, from the bottom of my heart, how does this matter? And so much of our society is focused on things that are not real. And this is the full circle moment here. We have this obsession. The Met Gala is just the shining beacon of that, but it's much deeper with things that are not real. They're not real. For me personally, what fixes this is getting back in touch with my faith. Now, that's not everyone, obviously. For someone else, it might be as simple as going out and touching grass. Now, I know that phrase has become something of a jab over recent years, but I mean it so seriously. Stop obsessing over who was the best and worst dressed at an event full of people who do not care if you're alive, and go outside. Feel the sun on your skin. If it's not sunny, feel the wind. Feel something. Feel something. We wonder why society is such an anxious mess. And I'm not saying that anxiety is a one-pronged. issue and that social media and all of this stuff is the problem. It's part of the problem. But that's exactly the point, is that anxiety is multifaceted and it affects everybody in a different way. And that's the problem, is that it affects everybody. That's not normal. That's not normal. For a society that is so hyperfixated on mental health, why are we so mentally unwell? That is a conversation for another time. But for today, we discussed the Met Gala because, as I said, it is the brightest, most obvious example of this problem. We need to disconnect and find something real. Nature, community, family, friends, pets, pick up a book, do something that is real. Because the things that we are focused on and obsessed with aren't. Just, those are the facts on the ground. All right, guys. Well, if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I think this was by far my favorite episode that I have put out. And yeah, it was a blast to put it together and make it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me, and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you all next Monday. Bye.